YouTube? This is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got your Week 10 waiver wire video to help you guys out with your fantasy team. Obviously, there have been injuries. There are 4 teams on a bye this week, so you've got to account for that. You've got the Eagles, you've got the Dolphins, you've got the Rams, and then, of course, you've got the Chiefs. So there are a good amount of players not playing this week. So hopefully this waiver wire video helps you guys out in getting the right team set up. We're about 4 weeks or so before the playoffs start in fantasy world, so make sure you pay attention to your league settings. Make sure you guys are ready. This should help you guys out. Now, the first player I'm going to mention as a player you should consider picking up is CJ Stroud. And I'm not even considering, at this point with what he was able to do, why is he not rostered more? Now, he's still available in about 24% of most leagues. They're going against the Bengals this week, and Stroud just came off one of the best rookie performances ever and one of the best quarterback performances of this season. Yet, he's still available in 24% of most leagues. He is the QB1. He has been fantastic this season so far. And again, 100% rostered, and I don't understand why he's not. Unless you've got maybe some of the top tier quarterbacks and you're in a single quarterback league, I get that. But there are a lot of quarterbacks that are not so good that are still being rostered over him. CJ Stroud should be your number one waiver if he is available. Another quarterback you should consider grabbing is Deshaun Watson versus the Ravens. He's available in 36% of most leagues. Watson has played since playing his first full game since week 3 at this point. So he finally played, right? The injury was subsided. He's looking a little bit healthier. Obviously, he's not fully healthy, but he did play. Now, he didn't look great. He did have some luck on his side to help him with his fantasy performance. He had a lucky touchdown that bounced off of a defender's helmet that Amari Cooper was able to have. But he still finished with just under 19 points. So, again, performance-wise, whether you feel like you should have him on your team or not, in the 4 games he was able to play this so far this season, he's had 18.6 points on average. That puts him about QB 11 so far this season. So, if you're in a 12-man league, he's up there, right? He should be rostered in most leagues, and he's got a really soft, really good schedule for the rest of the season. So again, he's definitely somebody you should consider. You've got to keep an eye on his injury, but if he can play the rest of the season and start to improve, Deshaun will definitely be someone that might help you win this league. Now, the last quarterback I'm going to mention is Sam Howell versus the Seahawks. He's available in 38% of most leagues. Sam Howell is currently right now QB6 for the season, and yet 38% of some leagues, he's out there on waivers. That should change. At this point, that should change. I understand he doesn't have the name. He plays on a team that's not have been fantastic. They look like they might be tanking, but then they're winning. He has thrown over 300 yards the last 2 games. He's got a really good schedule coming up. He looks, again, as far as fantasy goes, he looks amazing. He's getting the points that you need. I don't care about the real NFL when it comes to the fantasy talk. We're talking fantasy. QB6, and he's on waivers. Go pick him up, be that person, help you win your games. Now, running backs, I don't have a whole lot. A lot of it's just because there's not a lot of running backs available. I do see, again, this is 30% or so, but 35% of most leagues, Jaylen Warren is still available. He's going against the Packers, who are not great against the run. Warren just came off his best game with 88 yards on the ground and 14 points in fantasy. He's still considered the RB2 for the Steelers, but he's got a strong value when it comes to the passing game, and that's really where he's been fantastic. For me, he's not going to be a must play every single week, but matchup wise, he's a good flex play. He's a good, maybe an RB2, depending on what your bye weeks and injuries look like on your team. But he should be rostered at 35%. He should be rostered a little bit more just because he has been doing well, where Najee's get rostered a lot heavier, and Najee's actually performing less when it comes to fantasy. So again, Jaylen Warren should definitely be considered. Now, the only other running back I want to consider, if you guys need a running back, is going to be Chuba Hubbard versus the Bears this week. He's available in 30% of most leagues. Now, Hubbard didn't perform like we had, at least for myself, had expected going into this game. He had a good matchup, but he didn't do well, and the Panthers struggled in general with those 3 interceptions by Bryce Young. So that did not help. But it was announced that Chuba Hubbard is the RB1 for the Panthers right now, and Miles Sanders has essentially been supplanted his starting job. So at this point, Hubbard has the opportunities to do well and has chances to have some success. So again, I don't expect RB1 numbers, and I expect some low RB2 numbers depending on what his matchups are. He's more of a solid flex play in most games. Again, depending on what your roster is built like, depending on what you've got as far as injuries and bye weeks. So again, Hubbard should be considered put on your roster. Now I've got 3 wide receivers I want to talk about. I've got Tank Dell. He's going against the Bengals. He's available in 52% of most leagues. Now, I'm not saying you should absolutely must grab him. He needs to be in a lineup type of conversation. But Dell has shown signs where he's put up some really good games. He just had 29 points this past weekend. And in week 2 and week 3, he averaged 23 points a game in both of those games. So he's shown flashes to have really strong performances. But then, of course, he has shown where he's just absolutely a dud, right? Like, he's not playing well. But there are still people putting Gabe Davis on their roster, and Gabe Davis has some bad games. So I would take the risk on Tank Dell. I know Josh Allen is a more talented quarterback, but CJ Stroud is by far playing as a better quarterback in a more pass-heavy offense than Josh Allen. So if you have Gabe Davis, drop Gabe Davis and pick up Tank Dell. Please put him on your roster in that case. Another receiver you should consider is Jahan Dotson going against the Seahawks this week. He's available in 35% of most leagues. Dotson, 2 weeks in a row, has played very well. This past week, he had another touchdown with only 4 receptions. But in the past 3 weeks, Dotson's seen an average of 8 targets a game and has a nice soft schedule coming forward. So again, solid flex play, possible wide receiver 2 play depending on your bye week and injuries. Again, Dotson has a strong performance. He's got a really good soft schedule, just like Howell has. Those two together have been actually really good the last few weeks. And the other receiver I want to consider you should be grabbing is Demario Douglas versus the Colts. He's available in 65% of most leagues. Douglas is slowly becoming a popular name as of recent. A lot has to do with obviously Kendrick Bourne going on IR, and Douglas has been really the leading target for the Pats in the passing game. Patriots aren't a team that will pass a lot or put up a lot of points, so there is some hesitation there. But if you're looking for a flex player, maybe a desperate wide receiver 2. I hope not. But if you're looking for a flex play, Demario Douglas definitely has some opportunities and should see plenty of targets going forward the rest of the season. Now, as far as tight ends go, I've got Dalton Schultz versus the Bengals. He's available in 31% of most leagues. Schultz hasn't been the most consistent tight end this season, but the last 4 games, he has seen an average of 8 targets a game. Coming off his best game this season, he saw 11 targets, had 130 receiving yards with a touchdown. He's definitely becoming more of the safe play for Stroud. He is pretty consistent. I think he's at 91 points so far this season in fantasy. So he's got value there. He's averaging about 10 points a game. So at this point where Dalton Schultz is, he should be in most rosters. Again, 31% of most leagues available. You should look for grabbing him. Now, the other tight end I'm going to mention is Cade Otton versus the Titans. He's available in 95% of most leagues. Cade has done well the last 3 weeks. He's seen about an average of 6 targets a game, and he's always a red zone threat for this Buccaneers team. Now, Otton does have a tough 3-game stretch, so he does have some hesitation, right? Like going against pretty tough teams against the tight end. He might be a low tight end 1 play just because this Bucs team really has to pass a lot. Godwin is essentially I don't know what's going on with that, but he's not being targeted heavily. Otton seeing some more targets his way, and then obviously Mike Evans. So again, may want to consider grabbing him. Now, the last tight end I'm going to mention is Taysom Hill versus the Vikings. He's available in 36% of most leagues. Hill is now averaging 18 points in the last 4 games. He's been on fire and obviously a clear weapon for this Saints team. They are using him in multiple ways, just like Sean Payton did when he was there. He's throwing touchdowns. He caught a touchdown this past game. He's obviously a great runner. He is that Swiss Army knife for the Saints. And currently, right now, he's ranked tight end 9 in fantasy so far this season. So at this point, he's shown 4 great stretches of performances. Stop hesitating. Put him on your roster if you can, and you should just leave him as your tight end at this current moment. Depending on matchups, maybe, but he should be your tight end going forward. So those are my Week 10 waiver wire pickups. If you guys have questions of who you should drop, pick, whatever it might be, or even trades, if your trade deadline has not ended, hit us up in the comments down below. Make sure you guys we want to help you guys out with anything you have there. Make sure you guys are have the notification bells on if you guys are subscribed. And if you're not subscribed, hit that button, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button while you're there. Make sure you guys have those notification bells on because we'll be dropping more content, obviously, going forward to help you guys with your fantasy season. Again, most teams or most leagues have 4 to 5 games left before the playoffs, so every game matters going forward. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Check out our other starts and videos when they come out this week, and I'll check you guys out next time.